Hello friends, welcome to Tales Haven. I hope you find my story videos interesting and engaging. Kindly subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Thank you as you do so. Sit back, relax as we dive into the story. Emily Carter had never known a day off. At only 24, she worked harder than anyone else at the Maple Grand Hotel, a tall, shiny building in the heart of New York City. It was the kind of place where rich people stayed, with marble floors, golden elevators, and chandeliers the size of cars. But Emily didn't stay there, she cleaned it. From sunrise to midnight, she scrubbed bathrooms, changed sheets, vacuumed long hallways, and smiled at guests who never bothered to smile back. Her uniform was 2 sizes too big. Her sneakers were falling apart. Her back hurt every day, but she never complained.
She needed this job.
She had a younger brother back home in Ohio, and she sent money to him every week. That night was worse than usual. A VIP guest had spilled red wine on a white carpet. A toilet on the 9th floor had flooded. Someone left gum stuck to the bottom of the elevator buttons. Emily worked until her arms went numb. By the time she was done, it was past 1:30 a.m. She took a deep breath and wiped sweat from her forehead. The cleaning cart rattled as she pushed it slowly down the hallway. The hotel had 44 floors. She was supposed to take the staff elevator on the 10th floor to go down to the locker rooms in the basement. But her eyes were heavy, her mind foggy. She pressed the wrong button.
Ding.
The elevator doors opened on the top floor, penthouse level. Emily stepped out, not realizing her mistake. The hallway here was different. Quiet. Carpeted. There was a smell of vanilla and expensive cologne. Instead of beige wallpaper like the lower floors, the walls here were deep blue, with framed modern art and gold lamps on every side. "Wow," she whispered, yawning. "Fancy." She kept walking, looking for what she thought was an unoccupied guest room used for resting between shifts. The hotel sometimes let staff rest in small rooms when they worked late, usually on the 3rd or 5th floor. But Emily was so tired she couldn't even think straight. One door was open just a crack. Inside, the lights were warm and soft. There was a king-sized bed with snow-white sheets, big soft pillows, and the fluffiest comforter she had ever seen. A fireplace crackled in the corner. There was even a tray of macarons and a bottle of champagne on a table nearby. She stepped in slowly. This must be one of those VIP rooms. But her body didn't care. Her legs were jelly. Her brain was shutting down. She didn't even make it under the covers. She just flopped on top of the bed like a rag doll. As her eyes closed, she whispered, "Just 5 minutes." Then everything went dark. Meanwhile, down in the hotel lobby, Jason Hale, the owner of the hotel, the billionaire CEO of Hale Enterprises, and one of the most feared business minds in the city, had just returned from a late-night business trip in London. He was tired, jet-lagged. His usual driver had annoyed him. His business partner had talked too much on the plane. He just wanted to go up to his penthouse and sleep. As he walked through the hotel, people moved out of his way. Staff whispered. Guests stared. Jason was tall, sharp-jawed, always dressed in black, with eyes like cold steel. No one ever messed with him. The elevator doors opened to the penthouse floor. He walked to his private suite, the one with his initials engraved on the door handle, JH. He pushed open the door, dropped his coat on the couch, walked toward his bedroom. And then he stopped. There was someone in his bed. He squinted. It wasn't a woman in silk or perfume like he was used to.
No.
This girl was wearing a wrinkled cleaning uniform. Her brown hair was messy, her cheeks smudged with what looked like dust or maybe chocolate. And she was snoring. Jason blinked. Was he hallucinating? He stepped closer. She didn't wake. He cleared his throat. "Excuse me?" She stirred, sat up slowly, then looked at him, then screamed. "Oh my God, please, I'm sorry." Jason blinked again. She jumped out of bed, nearly tripping over the blanket. I didn't know. I was so tired. I thought this was a break room. I swear, I'm not a thief." He raised an eyebrow. "You thought this?" He gestured at the giant fireplace, the velvet chairs, the champagne. "Was a break room?" She nodded quickly. tears in her eyes. I must have pressed the wrong button. I didn't mean to. I was just so tired, and the door was open and the bed looked so soft, and I thought, just 5 minutes and please don't fire me. Jason should have been angry. This was his bed. His private suite. No one was allowed up here. But as he looked at her, her wide eyes, her panicked face, her stained uniform and beat-up sneakers, he couldn't help it. He laughed. Emily froze. You're not mad? Jason smirked. I've had people sneak into this hotel to steal diamonds. You just wanted a nap. That's a first. She blinked. You're really not going to call security? He shook his head.
No.
But you owe me a new pillow. She looked down. She drooled on it. Her face turned red. Oh my God. He walked to the minibar, poured himself a glass of water, and said, Go home. Before I change my mind. Emily grabbed her cleaning cart and backed out the door, still stammering. Thank you. I'm so sorry, thank you. The door closed behind her. Jason took a sip of water, then looked at the bed again. One side of the sheets was still warm, and for the first time in weeks, he smiled. Jason stood alone in his penthouse, sipping his water and staring at the rumpled bed. The sheets were still warm where she had been. A faint trace of her scent, clean linen and something sweet, lingered in the air. He shook his head, still half smiling. He couldn't believe it. A hotel cleaner had broken into his suite and fallen asleep in his bed. Not for money. Not for secrets. Just to sleep. Jason Hale had seen a lot in his life. Rivals stealing contracts, fake smiles at business dinners, people lying to his face. He trusted almost no one. But that girl, Emily, her name tag had read, was the most honest thing he'd seen in years. She hadn't begged. She hadn't flirted. She hadn't tried to fake a story. She'd just panicked like a lost puppy and tripped over his blanket. Jason set his glass down and walked to his bathroom. As the hot water steamed up the mirror, he rubbed the back of his neck. The hotel had been running under his name for 2 years now. It was his design, sleek, high-end, expensive. He made deals in this suite, held power lunches downstairs, flew around the world, and came back to silence. But tonight, that silence had been interrupted by the sound of a cleaner's soft snoring. And strangely, it didn't annoy him. The next morning, Emily barely slept when she got home. Her tiny apartment in Queens was still cold, and the radiator clicked like it was laughing at her. She sat on her thin mattress, hands buried in her face. I slept in my boss's bed. Out loud. It sounded even worse. He's going to fire me, she whispered.
Or sue me, she thought.
Or blacklist me from every hotel in New York. Maybe she'd have to go back to Ohio, where her little brother, Dylan, lived with their aunt. He was just 12, and she sent him money every week for books, clothes, anything he needed. She couldn't afford to lose this job. She wouldn't. Emily threw on her uniform again and rushed back to the hotel before sunrise, hoping to talk to her manager first, maybe explain, maybe. But it was already too late. At the front desk, the receptionist blinked and said, Oh,
Emily.
Mr. Hale wants to see you. Her heart stopped. Mr. Hale?
You mean the CEO?
Yes, the receptionist said, lowering her voice. His assistant said to send you up to the top floor right away. Emily nodded slowly, trying not to faint. Penthouse office. 8:05 a.m. Jason's office was nothing like the rest of the hotel. It wasn't just luxury, it was power. Floor-to-ceiling windows showed off the Manhattan skyline. A long dark desk stood at the center, with a single chair on the other side. Everything was perfectly neat, perfectly still, except for the man standing with his back to the window, arms crossed. Emily was sure her heart had stopped beating. She stepped in quietly, barely able to meet his eyes. Mr. Hale, she stuttered. I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to, invade your bed. His eyebrow raised slightly. I just needed to rest my eyes, and I thought the room was for staff, and I wasn't thinking straight, and Jason held up a hand. Emily, stop.
She did.
Her face burned. He turned fully to face her now, his suit sharp, his expression unreadable. You know most people in this building are terrified of me. Emily swallowed. I am, too. But you still climbed into my bed. I was tired, she blurted, then covered her mouth. I mean, I didn't mean to. I'm not that kind of person. Jason smirked, a real one. Relax. I'm not firing you. Emily blinked. You're not?
No.
You were honest. Nervous, yes, but honest. That's rare around here. Emily was too stunned to speak. Jason walked behind his desk and sat down. He folded his hands in front of him. I've been needing a new assistant. Her mouth opened. I don't think I heard you right. I said, he repeated, slower this time, I need someone who doesn't pretend around me. Someone who can keep it real. You seem like that type. I clean toilets, Emily said flatly. Jason leaned back. You slept in a billionaire's bed and didn't even try to lie about it. That says a lot more. She stared at him, unsure if she was still dreaming. I'm offering you a chance, he said simply, to work directly for me. More pay. Normal hours. No scrubbing bathrooms. Think about it. Emily opened her mouth.
Closed it.
Opened it again. Why me? He looked at her for a moment, then said quietly, because you're the only person in this hotel who made me laugh. Emily stood frozen in front of Jason's desk. She had no words. No clever reply. Not even a nervous laugh. She had spent the last year quietly blending into hotel hallways, avoiding attention, mopping floors with her head down. Now the billionaire CEO of the hotel she worked in was offering her a job. And not just any job, his personal assistant. Jason could see the panic on her face. He tilted his head slightly.
Relax.
It's not rocket science. But I don't know how to be an assistant, Emily finally whispered. I've never worked at a desk. I don't even have a laptop. I don't own any suits. I once confused a fax machine for a printer and broke it. Jason let out a soft laugh. Good. You're already better than my last assistant. She used to print her grocery list on company paper. Emily blinked. Wait, you're serious? I don't joke about business, Emily. You start tomorrow morning. If you're late, I'll fire you. If you spill coffee on me, I'll fire you. If you lie to me, I'll definitely fire you. She stared at him, trying to figure out if he was bluffing. Then, suddenly, he said, but if you show up and do your best, even if it's messy, I'll teach you what you need to know. Deal? Emily hesitated. This had to be a dream. Maybe she was still on that penthouse bed, deep in a coma, and all of this was her tired brain making up a crazy fairy tale. But then again, what did she have to lose? She swallowed hard. Deal. Jason stood and reached out his hand. Emily shook it, nervously, half expecting security guards to jump out from behind the couch and yell, Gotcha? But nothing happened. She just shook hands with one of the richest, most powerful men in New York City. And he smiled. The next morning, 7:55 a.m. Emily had no idea what she was doing. She had borrowed a pair of black slacks from her neighbor, ironed her one good shirt, and pulled her hair back in a bun so tight it hurt. She looked like a nervous librarian on her first day of jury duty. Still, she was 5 minutes early. That had to count for something. Jason's private office was already open when she arrived. His coffee was steaming on the desk. A stack of papers waited beside it. Jason himself stood by the window, already dressed in a crisp charcoal suit, talking on his Bluetooth headset. He nodded at her without speaking, then turned slightly toward the window. Emily took a quiet breath, tiptoed over to the desk, and reached for the papers.
Crash.
The coffee cup tipped over. Hot coffee spilled across the surface, soaking the papers. Emily gasped. Oh no, 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 no. Jason turned around slowly. Emily grabbed napkins from her bag and started blotting the papers like a maniac. I'm so sorry, I didn't see it. I swear it just tipped and… Jason walked over, looked at the mess, and sighed. Then he picked up a small towel from a cabinet and handed it to her. It's just coffee, Emily. She stopped. You're not yelling? Jason arched a brow. Would it help? She gave him a confused look. He chuckled. Let's call it your one free disaster. Just don't spill anything on my laptop or we'll both cry. Emily let out a tiny laugh of relief.
Later that day.
By lunch, Emily had learned 5 things. 1. Jason Hale drank exactly 2 cups of black coffee a day, no sugar, no cream, no exceptions. 2. His phone rang every 6 minutes. 3. His schedule looked like a Tetris puzzle made of meetings and chaos. 4. She didn't understand half the business terms he used. 5. But he didn't treat her like an idiot. She expected him to be rude or impatient. Instead, he answered her questions calmly, even when she asked what a merger was. He corrected her email drafts without sarcasm. He even taught her how to use his digital calendar. "I don't belong here," she muttered under her breath around 3 p.m., staring at a spreadsheet. Jason glanced over. "What did you say?" She looked up quickly. "Nothing." He didn't say anything at first. Just leaned back in his chair and looked at her. Really looked. "You belong here," he said simply. "You just don't believe it yet." Emily felt her throat tighten. No one had ever said that to her. Not even her own family. She looked down. "Thanks for not giving up on me today." Jason smiled faintly. "I give people one chance. You haven't wasted yours." That evening, when she got home that night, Emily collapsed onto her bed. But this time, she didn't feel crushed or defeated. She felt tired in a new way. A better way. She thought about how Jason hadn't yelled when she messed up. How he'd stood close when he was teaching her something, but never made her feel small. How he'd smiled, not fake or forced, but real. And how, even for a moment, she didn't feel like a cleaner pretending to belong in a penthouse. She felt like, maybe, just maybe, she was starting a whole new chapter. And for the first time in years, she couldn't wait to see what tomorrow would bring. The next morning, Emily arrived even earlier. Her old work shoes squeaked on the marble floors as she stepped into the penthouse office with a paper coffee tray in her hands. 2 black coffees, 1 regular and 1 with oat milk, just in case she messed up again. Jason wasn't at his desk yet. She placed the tray carefully on the table and sat down at the corner to organize his notes. She had spent the night watching tutorials on YouTube about email etiquette, business terms, and how not to spill coffee in front of billionaires. She even bought a little notebook titled "Don't Screw This Up." At exactly 8:01 a.m., Jason walked in. He looked sharp as always, suit perfect, hair styled, eyes focused. He nodded once at her and walked past without a word. Then stopped. He looked back at the desk, saw the coffee, and arched an eyebrow. "You remembered." Emily stood. "I brought 2. 1 black, 1 backup. Just in case I messed it up again."
He smirked.
"You're learning." Emily smiled shyly. "Trying." Later that week. By Friday, Emily was falling into a rhythm. She knew Jason liked quiet in the mornings, music during meetings, and fast answers to simple questions. He didn't like small talk but didn't mind a bit of sarcasm now and then. She also noticed the way he sometimes looked tired behind his sharp eyes, like there was always something on his mind he didn't talk about. One afternoon, during a long meeting with investors, Emily sat beside him taking notes. She couldn't understand most of the business lingo, but she noticed how Jason's hand clenched under the table when one of the older men interrupted him. After the meeting ended and everyone left, Emily stayed behind to clean up. Jason stood at the window again, staring out at the city. Snow had started to fall, soft and quiet against the glass. "You okay?" she asked gently. He didn't answer right away, then said, "I hate those kinds of meetings. Everyone talks, no one listens." She hesitated. "Well, for what it's worth, you sounded smart."
Bossy.
"But smart." He glanced at her with a small smile. "I am bossy." She grinned.
Yeah.
"You kind of scare people." "Do I scare you?"
She paused.
"At first, yes. Now maybe just a little. But only when you talk like a robot." Jason raised an eyebrow. "A robot?" Emily nodded. "You have this serious voice like, 'Bring me the numbers, or the world will end.'" He blinked, then laughed. Actually laughed, deep and genuine.
"Noted," he said.
"I'll try to sound more human." Emily's cheeks warmed. She wasn't sure if it was the compliment, the snow, or the fact that she had made Jason Hale laugh. That night, as they finished the last meeting of the day, a loud chime echoed through the building. Emily looked out the window. The snow wasn't soft anymore. It was thick and fast. A full-on blizzard had taken over Manhattan. The streets below were already white, cars crawling, sidewalks empty. Jason checked his phone and frowned. Elevators are down. Storm messed with the grid. Emily's eyes widened. So we're stuck. Temporarily. What about the stairs? He checked the building alert system. Blocked until maintenance clears the fire doors. She blinked. So we're really stuck? Jason nodded. Welcome to the penthouse. Hope you weren't planning to leave before midnight. Emily exhaled slowly. Well, I guess it's better than being stuck in a supply closet. Jason gave her a sideways glance. You really slept in here like it was a closet? I was tired. Your bed was like a marshmallow. Jason chuckled, walking toward the fireplace. He pressed a button, and the flames flickered to life behind the glass. Relax. We have heat, food, and a wine fridge. Could be worse. Emily hesitated, then slowly sat on the soft couch across from him. So, she said, hugging a small pillow, what does a billionaire do during a snowstorm? Count gold bars. Jason smirked. Usually I just catch up on emails. She rolled her eyes. That's boring. Then you suggest something better. She thought. Ever played 21 Questions? Jason raised an eyebrow. That sounds suspicious. It's fun. We ask each other anything, but no business talk. He leaned back.
Fine.
You first. Emily grinned. Okay. Why do you always wear suits, even when no one's around? Jason looked down at his jacket. Habit. My father believed only lazy men dressed casual. Emily nodded slowly.
Ah.
The rich people trauma. Jason laughed again. Your turn. He narrowed his eyes. Why did you really take this job? She hesitated, then said softly, because I didn't want to feel invisible anymore. The room grew quiet. Snow tapped gently on the windows. Jason looked at her for a long moment. You're not invisible, Emily. She met his gaze. You didn't see me until I stole your bed. He smirked.
True.
But I see you now. Something shifted in the air, soft but real. Her heart beat faster. His expression was calm, but his eyes weren't cold anymore. Suddenly, the power flickered again. Elevator's still down, he said, checking his phone. Might be here a while. Emily pulled her legs up onto the couch. Guess we wait. Jason stood, then walked to the kitchen. Hungry? He asked. Always, she said. He pulled out 2 sandwiches and some sparkling water from the minibar fridge. They sat by the fire, eating quietly, laughing sometimes, talking about things that didn't matter and things that did. Jason told her he used to play piano as a kid. Emily told him she once tried to become a singer, but only sang for her little brother now. Time passed. Then, somewhere between the silence, the firelight, and the storm, Jason looked at her. You know, he said softly, you're not at all what I expected. Emily looked at him, heart fluttering. And what did you expect? He leaned in just a little. Not someone who'd change my routine in a week. She smiled. I didn't mean to. I know, he said. That's the crazy part. Their faces were close now. Emily wasn't sure who moved first, but suddenly, his hand was brushing against hers. And then, he kissed her. It was slow, gentle, no rush, no pressure, just warm and real. Outside, the snow kept falling. Inside, everything changed. Emily didn't sleep that night, not because she was uncomfortable, but because she couldn't stop thinking about the kiss. It had been soft, warm, and careful. Not rushed or greedy like in the movies. Just real. Like Jason had been waiting for the right moment, and when it finally came, he didn't hesitate. Afterward, they didn't say much. Jason had stood up, walked to the window, and stared out at the falling snow. She had curled her legs on the couch, watching the flames flicker in the fireplace, her lips still tingling. There were no big speeches. No dramatic music. Just two people quietly sharing the kind of moment that changes everything. And now, the morning sunlight peeked through the windows, touching the edges of the room with a golden glow. The storm had passed. The city was waking up beneath a blanket of snow. Jason stood near the kitchen counter, pouring 2 mugs of coffee. Emily stretched from the couch, hair a little messy, eyes still half asleep. "Good morning," he said, handing her a mug. She took it slowly. "So, that happened." Jason looked at her.
Yeah.
It did. They sat across from each other, sipping quietly for a moment. "Are we going to talk about it?" she asked, voice small. He met her gaze. "Do you want to?" Emily bit her lip. "I mean, it was nice. Unexpected. Very not HR approved." Jason chuckled. "I don't think anyone writes rules for when a CEO kisses his assistant during a snowstorm." She laughed softly, then said, "What now?" Jason's voice lowered.
Now.
"I make sure that wasn't the last time I get to kiss you." Emily's eyes widened just a little. "So you're serious?" Jason leaned forward. "Emily, I've spent years surrounded by people who smile for money and lie for favors. Then you walked into my life, dropped coffee on my papers, insulted my robot voice, and somehow made everything better." She blinked. "I did." He nodded. "You remind me what it's like to feel something real. I didn't even realize how empty everything had become until you changed it." Emily looked down, her heart thumping in her chest. "No one's ever said anything like that to me," she whispered. "Ever." Jason smiled gently. "Then, I guess I'll be the first." 2 weeks later. Emily didn't know what dating a billionaire looked like. Turns out, it looked like midnight burgers and sweatpants, laughing over burnt toast, and stolen kisses in the elevator when no one was looking. Jason was still Jason, focused, sharp, powerful, but with her, he was different.
Softer. Real.
At work, they kept things quiet. At home, they learned each other's habits. Emily liked to dance while brushing her teeth. Jason read the news out loud just to make her laugh with his serious voice. She taught him how to cook eggs. He taught her how to handle investor meetings. And every night, they shared the same bed, the same one she'd once fallen asleep in by mistake. 1 month after the snowstorm, Jason called Emily to the rooftop garden. She came up with wind in her hair and snow still melting in the corners. Her cheeks were pink from the cold. Jason was waiting with a small silver box in his hand. Emily froze. "Oh my God, is that a ring?" Jason blinked.
No.
"Not yet." She let out a breath.
Phew.
"I mean, not that I'd say no, but wow, that was fast." Jason smiled and opened the box. Inside was a shiny silver key. "To my place," he said. "And to everything else." Emily stared at it, her heart full. He added, "No pressure. Just if you're ready." She looked up at him. "Are you sure about this? I mean, I used to clean the rooms in this hotel." Jason stepped closer. "And now you own my heart." Emily couldn't help it. She laughed, then wiped a tear from the corner of her eye. "I guess that means I get to keep sleeping in your bed?" she teased. Jason leaned down and kissed her. Every night. 1 year later, the Maple Grand Hotel had a new story whispered in the hallways. Guests talked about the cleaner who became the CEO's girlfriend. Staff smiled every time Emily walked past in her new wardrobe. Still simple, still her, but with a sparkle in her eyes they hadn't seen before. She still brought Jason coffee, every morning. He still called her by her full name when he was annoyed. But now, when meetings ended and the world slowed down, they went home together. No longer strangers. No longer from 2 different worlds. Just 2 people who had found love, all because one tired girl had accidentally slept in the wrong room. That brings us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you do, kindly subscribe to my channel. Like and share this video to your friends and loved ones. Thanks for watching.